This video is brought to you by catbeast.com. Design your own custom snapbacks and hats.
Before we assess Giannis's chances to finally take the crown, be sure to check out the sponsor of today's video, catbeast.com, and both the link in the comment section and description. Go customize your own snapbacks and hats. It is a very useful tool. The Los Angeles Clippers got a lot better this summer, didn't they? They were the direct beneficiary of Kawhi Leonard leaving the Eastern Conference. You know who else benefited majorly from that? The Milwaukee Bucks. Oh my, this summer was an interesting one because on one hand, I did personally want Kawhi Leonard to leave the Raptors. Aside from Kevin Durant, he was basically the other half of what was making this one of the bigger off seasons we've had since the time LeBron went to Miami. That was a 2010 off season. So I didn't want to go through all that and have all that suspense just for him to stay in Toronto. But on the other hand, damn, now that we're here, it kind of sucks that we're not going to have years of Kawhi versus Giannis because, let's be real, having two MVP caliber players in the same conference, having two of the top 5 players in the league in the same conference, and specifically in the Eastern Conference, which has been bad for so long, like it's historically always way worse than the West is, that just would have been awesome. Nevertheless, we are here, and the Milwaukee Bucks, who were a 60-win team last year and were beating Eastern teams at a historic point differential, now are looming over an Eastern Conference that does not have its Eastern Conference champions anymore. It's extremely good news for them. It's very good because not even just for this season, and we know that the goal is to be successful season in and season out, but I think it's kind of slipped up on us how close we are to Giannis's free agency. He only has 2 seasons left on his contract. It's this one and then 2021 season. That's it. I think you are all very familiar with how this works, especially with the type of market that Giannis is playing in. 2 years left on your contract is the equivalent to 1. The team knows that. That's why they were already talking about giving him an extension and were fined $50K for tampering under the NBA's new tampering rules. They can't even talk about that type of stuff anymore. Tampering with your own player, how the fuck does that work? Anyways, that makes this season extra important for the Bucks because if you come into the 2021 season, depending on what the team's outlook is, you already know 1 year on a superstar's contract, the team is like, what are we doing here? Giannis is like, what are we doing here? So the point is, while Bucks fans might be nervous, you should also be happy coming into this season because the conference is in your favor. If you watch the Sixers preview, you already know we're talking about what it is that they have to figure out in terms of the roster, how deep they are, assimilating Al Horford and running 2 bigs. There's things that, they can figure out, but they have things to figure out. Whereas with the Bucks, I think it's just more of the same. They were a great team last year, and it's clear with this offseason what little they could do. Obviously, they had to sign Chris Middleton because Giannis free agency coming up in 2021, you couldn't even let Middleton look anywhere. That's the second best player on the team. So they went ahead and locked him up. Then they go out and get Kyle Korver and Wesley Matthews. Very obvious attempt to surround Giannis with more shooters because that is how he is going to be more effective. They've still got Brook Lopez, and the only big loss this summer was Malcolm Brogdon, who I might mention, yes, that is definitely a loss, but they also did a good portion of the playoffs without him, so it's nothing, I wouldn't call it monumental. I don't think they are going to be 2 different teams. I think in terms of important elements to their success, they basically kept and have everything that they need. So how far they go this season is really going to come down to how great these Sixers turn out being and how great Giannis turns out being, because with the Giannis factor, that's basically what the Eastern Conference Finals came down to. That and not having Bledsoe average 10 points on 29% shooting. I think that would probably help as well. But we all know when you are the best player on the team, when you are the MVP, you get into the playoffs, the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and when he went up against the Raptors, it happened kind of the way I said it was going to happen, or the way I thought it was going to happen when I watched a specific game during the season. I was watching Giannis go off on the Sixers. He was dominating them in the paint, and that day I tweeted out, and a lot of people disagreed, but I tweeted out, isn't this going to mean something in the playoffs? Isn't he going to be slowed down, even if it's just a bit, right? This is going to mean something, right? And people, implored me not to worry about it, it, saying that nobody can stop him regardless. You back off of him in the paint, you just give him a head of steam. And lo and behold, it ended up mattering. Teams, when they just really key in on a strategy for the playoffs, building a wall for Giannis was a very common theme. You would rather have him shoot 3-pointers, which by the way, he didn't even shoot terribly. He was knocking some down. But again, any day of the week, you let Giannis take an open 3-pointer, as opposed to having him run in transition, get to the basket, get his team fired up, collapse the defense. Any day of the week, you go with that wall. So his development on the offensive end will be key, especially because we can at least say from here, right, the NBA season is supposed to be entertaining and we don't know what's going to happen, but I feel fairly confident that without injuries, the Sixers and Bucks will be the Eastern Conference Finals. It would take a number of developments for that to go differently in my mind, but the reason I'm bringing that up is because the Sixers do have a lot of size and length. They have one of the bigger lineups that we've seen in a very long time. So when thinking about the Bucks and Sixers matching up, a thing to look for with the Sixers this year is how they recover the shooters, the defensive rotations, things like that, because if they can get to the playoffs and Giannis hasn't improved very much in the jumper category, well, the Raptors last year kind of wrote the blueprint on how to defeat that version of Giannis. Of course, they had the personnel for it as well. They had a really good defensive team. But that's also why I'm saying let's see these Sixers on the defensive end. Let's see them on the defensive side, because if we get to the playoffs, if we get to May next year and Giannis is still just kind of dribbling and looking at the defense while guys are rotating over to him and getting in help position, and yeah, if he's not able to be more creative with the ball and all he has is like a spin into the lane or a Euro step into the lane, then that definitely heightens the chances that we are going to end up with these same results. That being said, he is not the MVP for nothing. I am pretty sure he has studied excessively exactly why the Bucks were eliminated. In the playoffs, he was average but not terrible at 3-pointers, so the only thing that's really left is to see what he brings to the table. I tell you, it's going to be interesting to see what direction this goes for him, because he's now entering year 7. That's crazy, it doesn't feel like it's been that long at all, but this will be his 7th season in the NBA. He's not in the same situation as a lot of stars have been throughout their careers. We saw LeBron come up, we saw Anthony Davis come up on poor teams basically. They spent their extension years, you know, after you extend on your rookie contract, we saw them spend them on teams that weren't really ever going anywhere. They just weren't as talented as other teams around the league. Giannis doesn't face that problem at all. He's already been within 2 wins of the NBA Finals, he's already won the MVP, and he's only 24 years old. He's this close to greatness and he's only 24. So for that reason, I would say that this year, for the best case scenario, an NBA championship is absolutely not out of the question. I think the West is fancier and flashier. Obviously, the Clippers having 2 superstars, the Lakers having 2 superstars, and the West overall just being the more superior conference. We just kind of look at it and say, yeah, the champion's coming from the West this year. And it's always kind of been like that, right? It's always kind of felt like that. But in today's NBA, the Bucks, and especially assuming that Giannis gets better, they are good enough to win the title. They're good enough to have that in their aspirations. Now, of course, with the Western teams having 2 superstars each, the ones that we expect would be in the finals, and Giannis being the only superstar on the Bucks, of course it makes it a little bit more difficult. It doesn't make them favorites in any scenario if they do make the finals. I do, however, think that is in the cards for them this year. But conversely, the absolute worst case scenario for this team is losing before the finals, not making it at all. You know, it really looked like they could have made it last year, and then the Raptors made adjustments. Giannis just wasn't ready. But again, that whole contract thing, that is a bigger issue, and it's going to be bigger throughout the season, right? Because this is just what we do. This is what media does. Throughout the season, his contract will be discussed more and more. Then you get to the summer and next season, it is going to be a hot topic issue going into the 2020s. Not even making the NBA Finals would put them in position where next year is kind of like all or nothing. Because I'm going to go out on a limb and say, especially with today's Eastern Conference, they have to at least make it one time out of his 2 years left for him to re-sign there. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, but he said he loves us and he's going to stay and he's loyal and he's building homes for people here and his community work. Look, I have seen it all. I have seen and heard everything from superstar players throughout the 2010s. I have seen every possible plea case about why they love their team, and then at the end of the day, their actions say something different. So right from where we are right now, we know nothing. There is no assurance that Giannis is going to stay whatsoever. There's no hints that he's going to leave. I'm just saying, historically with players, there is no reason to just feel safe that he's going to be on the Bucks forever, or even like 3 years from now. There's no reason to feel that way. If you're the Bucks, play it safe, make it this year. make a furious run at the title this year, because what if the Nets actually are in play next year? We have no clue what's going to happen with Kevin Durant's recovery, or if he is going to have a good enough comeback for them to be a major player in the Eastern Conference going forward. But prepare for the worst. Always prepare for the worst. Next thing you know, you've got the Sixers developing and they're still a player next year. Then you throw Kevin Durant and Kyrie into the mix, and then Giannis is like, well, my best player next to me is Chris Middleton, and he's looking out into the horizon and he sees Simmons and Embiid, and he sees Kyrie and KD and whatever else may have happened by then. Yeah, I'm gonna say this year is a very big opportunity for them. It's something they need to make something out of this. We may be out of the super team era for now, we may be out of like the big three era, but we are very much in a dynamic duo phase right now. So when I look at Giannis and Middleton, look, Middleton's a good player, not taking anything away from him, but he's not like superstar level. It's not like looking at the other duos in the league right now where you see 2-star players everywhere. That's not really what you see when you look at the Bucks. When you look at the Bucks, you see Giannis and a lot of good players. So all I'm saying is that the motivation for him to split if he has to is there. Y'all are on the clock, Milwaukee, but you got a great opportunity, so it's not all bad. Anyways, that is it for today. The Bucks had a really easy preview to do because not much really changed with him. It's really just about seeing what Giannis has added to his game, and also how the landscape has changed around them. Nothing more, nothing less. If you enjoyed this preview, hit the like button, comment, and sub, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications when the next one drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.